Blood for the blood gods, calls for the throne of corn. More blood, more death, more glorious carnage. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. And once again, it's time for chaos training. And today was glute and hamstring day. We started off with beltless deficit deadlifts. Now, yeah, I know I'm only doing 500 pounds. I decided I wanted to go beltless just like on the squats. And I started doing just a little bit of warming up of 405 and realized, man, I don't know if I can rep 550 without the belt. So I'm like, let's work deficits and let's get used to that deeper pull position without that belt. And quite frankly, 500 for triples was fairly challenging, right? Like, I probably had another rep in the tank on these, but I don't know if I had more than one, right? Maybe one, maybe two. So I'm like, okay, this is a good starting point. So let's just work with this. I wish the waistline was a little tighter today, but the quads are on point. But I think now that the carbs are lower again, the waistline will start pulling back in. Of course, it's never going to look good on a pull, right? It doesn't matter. Your belly's going to poke out on a deadlift. Unavoidable. But, happy with the work. I felt really good stimulus on this. It felt good, especially doing the beltless, right? Doing that beltless work. So let's just keep getting stronger, keep getting more jack, and then I should recomp at this point now that carbs are low, now that I'm doing the fasted cardio again with all my training volumes. We should tighten up a little bit while we're gaining. I don't plan on gaining weight. If anything, I might end up losing a little weight while doing this, so we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that I'm eating enough and getting enough protein that we make gains again. I want to get the strength and the muscle up. We want to get leaner. We want to get a bit leaner. I do need to tighten up a little more, particularly the waistline. But again, I'm just going to run with it. I feel like the change in diet will put me back where I was, because I looked better a few weeks ago while doing the lower carbs. And the strength was still actually coming back up, right? Squats were coming back up. Everything was good. So training is dialed in. So I'm just going to keep running with that. We'll run with that. So we should tighten up a little bit. All right, glute ham raises, I just did them to failure. I don't know how many reps. I got like 12 or something, and I ended up with like 7 or something on the third set. I don't know. I didn't bother to count. I just took them to failure. I'm like, let's just focus on getting the full range of motion at the bottom, do them until we fail. And so once we stuck at the bottom, that's it. We're done. Like, that's it. And after doing the deficit pulls again, I know that for me, just any sort of deadlifting like that with volume actually will make me grow. But I want to make sure the posterior chain gets worked completely. So I want to make sure I get at least 10 sets for it. Keeping in mind my squat day and my leg day still works glutes and stuff. So we are getting double down there a little bit. But yeah, we want to make sure that we hit a few different angles. So I'm like, if I'm not going to do a real high amount of volume, let's take the intensity way up. Let's take the intensity up. So that means sets to failure on the glute ham raises, right? But those deficit pulls, especially without the belt, were pretty dang challenging. And I know when I'm looking at it on camera, I'm like, man, I made it look easy. I made it look easy on camera, but it didn't feel that easy when doing it. If that makes sense, it was harder than it looked. I always do that. When I pull a lot of times, there are times when people are like, oh, that looked easy for you, and then I miss, or I've hit failure, and people are like, how did you hit failure? You had at least 3 more reps on deadlifts. It's just funny, right? It's funny how that goes. So, but we did the 3 sets of glute ham raise, and I did 4 sets of reverse hypers. I just did 25 on the first 3 because they felt challenging. I felt the burn. And then the 4th set, I'm like, on the 4th set, let me just take it all the way out. And I didn't even count reps. It was probably 40 to 50 on the final set, which tells me, these first sets, I'm probably holding back. It feels like it burns, but I clearly had a lot left in the tank. So at least the final set took us there. But because the deadlifts were heavy enough that we got a training response every set, we got good training there. Okay. Glute ham raises, because we went to failure, we know we got a training response. So I'll accept the first 3 sets of reverse hypers. May not have had a huge amount of stimulus, but what they do have is restoration. Getting blood flow, getting traction, working all that for the lower back is worth a lot after the other stuff. after the heavy pulling, the axial loading of it, especially the beltless, right? Especially doing the beltless stuff, because again, it's more taxing. So I'm going to just do all that for a while. So I think you guys are going to see, in general, my training is going to be just bare shorts and then chalk if we need it, Shorts and chalk. Let's just run with it. All right, train as raw as possible. Just go raw with all of it and build that raw strength back up. And I like to do that in phases. It's always funny. When I do that, people say silly stuff like, that's a flip flop. And it's like, so you're just going to ignore the videos I made 10 years ago where I said, and I quote, I agree with Dan Green that it's probably beneficial to rotate phases of belted and unbelted training. That was my official position 10, 11, 12 years ago. Okay? I literally am still doing what I told you guys I supported 12 years ago. So it's funny how people interpret that. You're never allowed to do phases in your training or your diet. Oh my God. So, but I do, philosophically, I enjoy the idea of beltless raw training. And I will admit that. It's just something about it that appeals to me. And there are times when I'm doing it where I say, this is the way forward. But you guys know that my position has always been, my logical position is there's benefits to both. But we can also make the case of, if you're not anywhere in a meet prep, training as raw as possible, probably a good idea. Then you get more used to your equipment as you get closer to a competition, so you get the most out of it, right? But generally speaking, I think most people would benefit from a lot of raw training, completely raw, at least part of the year. And particularly if you're not competing, if you're nowhere near any sort of powerlifting meet, it's probably not a bad idea. I feel like it's better for overall muscle growth and recovery because you're forced to use a little bit lighter loads, right? A little less compression on everything. And, we can still get great stimulus and still move heavy weights, right? Just like my goal is to hit a 500 beltless squat routine. I did 460 relatively easy. I'll probably try 480 this week, and I think it'll go real smooth. I predict it will. All right, so we did these, and I don't know how many reps, whatever, 40. Someone can count if they really care. And then I finished up with a set of hanging leg raises and called it a day. This was a good workout. I was happy with it. I went and did cardio afterwards. So I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.